That bottle sitting on your shelf right now. The one you grabbed from Tesco or Asda last Friday without really thinking about it. You assumed it was fine because it had a label, because you have been buying it for years. But here is what the vodka industry does not want British consumers to know. Some of the most widely sold bottles in the United Kingdom contain industrial-grade grain spirit, synthetic additives, artificial sweeteners linked to gut damage, and chemical flavourings that exist nowhere in nature. Independent testing has found acetaldehyde residues, methanol traces in illicit product, and processing chemicals sitting inside bottles that cost you £12 and promised you a clean drink. Today, we are exposing 10 vodkas sold right here in the UK that you need to stop buying immediately. And we are not leaving you without options. By the end, we will reveal 3 brands that are genuinely clean, genuinely crafted, and genuinely worth your money. Stay until the very last one because it will permanently change how you think about what vodka can actually be. 10. Glen's Vodka. Walk into any Tesco, Asda, Morrison's, or corner shop in England or Scotland and you will find it. The UK's best-selling vodka by volume for over a decade. £11 for 70 centilitres. You might think that price means value. What it actually means is corners cut at every stage of production. Glen's is made by the Loch Lomond Group and sold in enormous volume to people watching their spending. The Advertising Standards Authority has received complaints about its marketing practices, and Scottish health organisations, including Alcohol Focus Scotland, have named the brand directly, arguing its pricing is engineered to enable harmful daily consumption among the most vulnerable drinkers. When Scotland introduced minimum unit pricing at 50 pence per unit in 2018, health economists identified products like Glen's as disproportionately linked to alcohol-related deaths in lower-income populations. Open a bottle and smell it. There is a sharp chemical edge underneath the alcohol, something almost industrial, like cleaning fluid, rather than anything belonging in a drinks cabinet. That is what happens when grain-neutral spirit is distilled the minimum possible number of times and filtered through the cheapest carbon available. Proper vodka is distilled and filtered until that harshness vanishes entirely. Glen's keeps it in because removing it costs money. For anyone with existing liver concerns or taking medication that interacts with alcohol metabolites, those residual congeners from cheap distillation accumulate faster than they would from a cleaner spirit. NHS Scotland linked vodka to more alcohol-related liver admissions than any other spirit. Glen's sits at the centre of that data. £11 a bottle. The real cost is paid somewhere else. 9. Smirnoff flavoured vodka. The iconic red label has been in British homes for generations and remains the world's best-selling vodka by a wide margin. But step away from the classic bottle and enter the flavoured range, the raspberry, the passion fruit, the green apple, and you are stepping into a laboratory that has nothing to do with vodka tradition. Smirnoff's flavoured lines contain artificial flavourings, synthetic sweeteners, including acesulfame K, and caramel colouring that produces 4-methylimidazole, listed as a possible carcinogen under California's Proposition 65 framework and subject to disclosure requirements from the UK's Food Standards Agency. Acesulfame K, found across Smirnoff's flavoured range, has been linked in peer-reviewed research to disruption of gut microbiome diversity, interference with insulin response, and in animal models to increase tumour development over sustained exposure periods. These are not fruit flavours derived from actual fruit. They are synthesised in flavour laboratories and engineered to trigger dopamine responses that drive repeat purchase. The branding shows tropical imagery and vibrant colour. The ingredients list shows industrial chemistry. Diageo, the corporation behind Smirnoff, is worth over £25 billion. They can source real fruit. They choose not to because artificial is cheaper and more effective at keeping you coming back. If you drink Smirnoff Red Label neat, the damage is less severe. The flavoured range is a chemical cocktail dressed up for a night out. 8. Vladivar Vodka. Vladivar was once a legitimate British vodka brand with regional identity and some genuine heritage. It is now a budget spirit passed between owners and stripped back to the most economical production standard achievable while still qualifying as vodka. You find it in Asda and Morrison's at around £12, positioned just above the supermarket own brand shelf, as though that gap means something. The problem is not one dramatic scandal. The problem is what years of relentless cost-cutting do to a spirit that was never premium to begin with. Vladivar is produced using column-distilled grain neutral spirit at minimum adequate standard. Consumer reviews across UK retail platforms describe persistent headaches after drinking it even in modest quantities. Those headaches are not coincidence. They are the physiological response to acetaldehyde, a toxic byproduct of fermentation that quality distillation removes and cheap distillation leaves behind. Acetaldehyde is classified as a Group 1 carcinogen by the International Agency for Research on Cancer, the same classification as tobacco smoke. It is present at trace levels in all alcoholic drinks, but the cheaper and more poorly distilled the spirit, the higher the residual concentration. For anyone over 50 with cardiovascular concerns, those traces compound with regular use in ways a cleaner spirit would not. Vladivar earns its price through shortcuts that show up the morning after every single time. 7. Russian Standard Vodka. Russian Standard built its UK reputation on authenticity, the claim that it represented genuine Russian vodka made from winter wheat on the Russian steppe according to traditional methods. That story sold millions of bottles in Sainsbury's and Waitrose and positioned the brand as a credible step above budget alternatives. Then February 2022 happened. Russia's invasion of Ukraine triggered sanctions, supply chain disruptions, and a wave of consumer scrutiny about the ownership behind the bottle. Russian Standard's founder, Rustam Tariko, is among Russia's wealthiest oligarchs, and his business interests are closely tied to the Russian state. Several major UK pub chains removed the brand entirely. Independent vodka reviewers consistently noted that post-2022 batches showed measurable variation in quality compared to pre-war stock. Sanctions on agricultural inputs disrupted the production chain, and the consistency that had justified the mid-range premium deteriorated noticeably. Bottles that had been reliably smooth became harsher. For a brand charging significantly above budget pricing, that inconsistency was a direct betrayal of the value proposition. You were paying for Russian craft and receiving something far less defined, while simultaneously funding a supply chain with direct connections to a state conducting a war. That combination is difficult to justify on any level. 6. Stolichnaya, now rebranded as Yadoli. For decades, Stolichnaya was synonymous with Russian vodka on the British market. Then ownership became a legal and geopolitical nightmare most British consumers were never told about. The brand became the subject of a decades-long dispute between the Russian government and private owners, the SPI Group, with Russian courts ruling it belonged to the state and international courts ruling otherwise. During the years of that active dispute, consumers picking up a bottle had no reliable way of knowing which production chain it came from or what quality standards governed its manufacture. Since rebranding to Stoli in 2022, production has moved to Latvia, and multiple UK publications noted that the current blend lacks the smoothness associated with the original formulation. More concerning, the rebranding confusion created conditions that were exploited by unscrupulous distributors. Trading standards in several UK regions issued specific guidance about counterfeit and mislabeled Stolichnaya products circulating in secondary retail channels during the transition. When brand confusion reaches the level of trading standards involvement, the average consumer has lost the ability to trust what is actually in the bottle. 5. Ciroc Vodka. Ciroc is one of the most expertly marketed spirits on the planet. French grapes, ultra-premium branding, a celebrity endorsement partnership worth hundreds of millions in cultural influence. Every element of the Ciroc presentation communicates that this is worth the £35 to £40 you will pay at Waitrose or Ocado. Now, look at what is actually inside. Ciroc is made from Mauzac Blanc and Ugni Blanc grapes, then distilled 5 times in column stills, which sounds impressive until you understand that multiple column distillations are exactly how industrial neutral spirit is produced at scale. The result is a spirit with most of its intrinsic character removed. Independent blind taste tests published by Which magazine and respected UK spirits. Publications have found that trained tasters could not reliably distinguish Ciroc from well-made grain vodkas costing £15 to £20 less. The grape base provides a slightly different mouthfeel, but the premium price, double or triple that of comparable quality spirits, is sustained entirely by marketing rather than by anything the chemistry of the liquid can justify. You are paying a £40 luxury tax on what independent assessment consistently describes as a well-distilled but thoroughly ordinary neutral spirit. If you have spent serious money on Ciroc believing the grape origin makes it fundamentally superior, you bought the campaign, not the vodka. 4. Crystal Head Vodka. You have seen it on the top shelf, the skull-shaped bottle catching the light. £35 to £45, looking like the centerpiece of an art display rather than something you drink. That bottle is the product. Everything else is decoration. Crystal Head was founded partly by actor Dan Aykroyd and supposedly filtered through Herkimer diamond crystals from New York State, which the brand credits with exceptional purity. There is no peer-reviewed scientific evidence that filtering vodka through any form of crystal alters its chemical composition in any detectable way. None. The UK's Portman Group found no credible scientific foundation for quality improvements attributed to mineral-based filtration. Crystal Head does market itself as 4 times distilled and additive-free, both of which also describe hundreds of other vodkas at a fraction of the price. Remove the glass skull and the celebrity origin story, and you have a perfectly adequate Canadian grain vodka, indistinguishable from £15 alternatives under controlled blind tasting conditions run by organisations with no commercial interest in the result. For anyone buying it as a gift or a treat, the elaborate packaging costs more to manufacture than the liquid inside it. You are paying for a dramatic vessel. The vodka it contains is ordinary by any objective measure. 3. Asda own brand vodka range. Supermarket own brand spirits exist at the intersection of convenience and invisible compromise. Asda's own vodka range, sold between £9 and £13 depending on size and tier, is produced under contract by large-scale industrial distillers who supply multiple supermarket chains simultaneously. The same base spirit frequently fills bottles under different retailer brands. This is how the contract distilling industry has always functioned, and it is not secret within the trade. The problem for the consumer is zero meaningful accountability from where you stand at the shelf. No named distillery, no defined production method, no transparency about grain origin, distillation specifications, or filtration process. When which? Magazine assessed a range of UK supermarket vodkas. Asda's value tier ranked among the lowest in sensory quality, with tasters consistently noting a persistent solvent-like aftertaste and absence of any distinguishable positive character. That solvent note is acetaldehyde again, the same signature of shortcuts taken throughout production. Asda describes its own brand vodka as smooth and refreshing in its marketing copy. Trading standards offices in multiple English regions received complaints from consumers about misrepresentation of spirit quality in own brand labelling during 2020 and 2021. When a product's actual sensory profile generates regulatory complaints, something dishonest is happening between the label and the liquid. 2. Tesco Finest Vodka. You might reasonably assume Tesco's premium own brand tier would be meaningfully different from their budget offering. Independent blind testing does not support that assumption. When the Spirits Business magazine assessed UK supermarket premium own label vodkas, Tesco Finest received criticism for its failure to differentiate from the standard range under controlled conditions. The Finest designation functions as a margin-generating exercise for the retailer, rather than as a genuine quality commitment. The spirit inside is sourced from the same contract distilling operations as budget alternatives, produced against cost targets rather than quality benchmarks. Beyond the label, Tesco Finest Vodka's production information is entirely absent beyond the legal minimum required for spirits sold in the UK. You cannot find where the grain was sourced, where distillation takes place, how many passes were performed, or what filtration method was used. The label is legally compliant and completely uninformative. Paying a premium price for a product with zero production transparency means paying for a story that does not exist. You have simply paid more for the same unknowable liquid dressed in slightly more elegant cardboard. 1. Counterfeit and unlicensed spirits sold through UK online marketplaces. This is the most dangerous entry on this list, and the one most people dismiss because they believe it cannot affect them. They assume they are buying legitimate branded product. Since 2019, HMRC and trading standards have conducted dozens of seizures of counterfeit and deliberately mislabeled spirits sold through UK third-party marketplace listings that closely mimic legitimate brands. In 2022, HMRC announced the seizure of over 2 million litres of illicit alcohol across the United Kingdom, with a significant proportion involving counterfeit vodka bearing labels of well-known brands including Smirnoff and Absolut. Illicit vodka may contain methanol rather than ethanol. Methanol is colourless, odourless, and indistinguishable from drinking alcohol without chemical testing. As little as 10 millilitres causes permanent blindness. 30 millilitres can kill. UK hospital emergency departments reported multiple suspected methanol poisoning cases linked to spirits bought through informal online channels in 2021 and 2022. Trading standards officers found bottles with near-perfect label reproduction, differing from legitimate product only in details most consumers would never notice. If you are buying vodka from any source other than a licensed off-license, a recognised supermarket, or a verified direct retailer, you are gambling with your sight and your life. No saving justifies that risk. That is a frightening list. The honest answer is that cheap vodka has always been a market where your health comes last. Low prices are achieved through compromises you were never supposed to notice. You do not have to stop drinking vodka. You just have to know which 3 bottles in that entire category actually deserve your trust. Those bottles exist, and they are not hard to find. Sipsmith London Dry Vodka. Sipsmith launched in Chiswick in 2009 and became the first new London distillery to open in nearly 2 centuries. Their vodka is made from 100% British wheat, distilled in small batches in copper pot stills, and distilled 6 times before a final pass through vegetable charcoal filtration. That process is labour-intensive and expensive. It is also the reason the spirit tastes unlike anything in the affordable premium category. Open a bottle and the nose is clean, with the faintest warmth of grain, something almost bread-like and wholesome in a way that industrial neutral spirit never achieves. On the palate, it is smooth but not absent of character, with a gentle warmth and a finish that fades cleanly rather than leaving the harsh chemical burn cheaper spirits deposit at the back of your throat. At around £25 to £30 in Waitrose, Sainsbury's and good off licences, Sipsmith is the accessible end of genuine quality. Made in Britain from traceable British grain with full production transparency. No quality complaints upheld by any UK regulatory body. Just a clean, honest spirit produced with genuine craft that is visible in every single glass you pour, without any of the compromises that define everything else on this list. Chase Distillery Potato Vodka. Chase Distillery in Herefordshire produces what many independent assessors consider the finest British vodka in commercial production. William Chase planted his own potatoes on his Wye Valley farm and built a distillery to make vodka from them on site. The entire supply chain from soil to bottle exists on one farm, a level of traceability that the brands we have spent this video exposing cannot approach even conceptually. Chase is distilled in a copper pot still on site, brought to drinking strength with water from the farm's own borehole, and bottled without additives or artificial intervention. It won Best Vodka in the World at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition. Decanter magazine and other independent reviewers have consistently ranked it among the finest global examples of the category. The potato base gives it a richness that grain vodkas cannot replicate. Open a bottle and the difference is immediate. A creamier texture, a more rounded mouthful, a finish with actual length. You will find Chase in Waitrose, M&S and independent off licenses at around £30 to £35. For anyone who drinks vodka regularly and genuinely cares about what is in the glass, Chase is the definitive answer to everything this list represents. It is what transparency and single origin quality actually look like. Black Cow Pure Milk Vodka. Black Cow is made in Dorset from the whey produced as a byproduct of cheese making on a working dairy farm. Founder Jason Barber found a way to transform what would otherwise be agricultural waste into a premium spirit through a proprietary fermentation and distillation process developed on his own farm. The result is a vodka with a softness that grain and potato spirits do not achieve. There is no harshness, no chemical edge, no acetaldehyde signature, and none of the morning after discomfort that cheaper alternatives reliably produce. Black Cow is made from milk and nothing else. No grain, no additives, no artificial anything. Every bottle tells you exactly how it was made and what went into it. That transparency is what honest production looks like when a maker has nothing to hide. The Spirits Business awarded Black Cow a gold medal in independent assessment. It appears consistently in top 10 UK vodka lists from Which, Decanter and national newspaper drink sections. You will find it in M&S, Waitrose and online at around £30 for 70 centilitres, a price that reflects genuine craft. For anyone who has poured a glass of something harsh and cheap and wondered if there was a better way, Black Cow has been there all along, made in a Dorset field, waiting for you to find it. Go to your drinks cabinet right now, pick up every vodka bottle on that shelf and look at the price. If it cost under £15, you already know what corners were cut. If it is a flavoured line from a major corporation, you know what is creating those flavours. And if you bought it from an unverified online seller, do not drink what remains. Sipsmith for a clean British craft spirit. Chase for single farm potato vodka with the finest provenance of any British spirit. Black Cow for something genuinely unlike anything else, made with complete honesty. You do not need to spend a fortune. You need to spend wisely. And now you know exactly how. If this opened your eyes, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone whose drinks cabinet needs same conversation. More investigations coming. Thanks for watching. Stay sharp, stay informed, keep rising.